So, let's get controversial. I don't like Minidolls. Specifically, Minidolls on Disney. I don't particularly mind them in the Friends set, as that's kind of the point of the whole theme. In terms of Disney, I don't understand why they've made them, considering the CMF was made with primarily minifigures over things like Minidolls. Here's the thing, all the sets that Disney have released have all had some form of Minidoll or Minidoll variant, and it confuses me, because I genuinely think they'd sell more Disney sets if they ended up using these normal regular minifigures over something like the Minidolls. Maybe I'm wrong, and in this video we're going to test out my theory and why I think Minidolls exist, and talk to some people that were converted from minifigures to Minidolls. So for starters, I just want to say that I don't actually lividly hate Minidolls. I just don't like them and don't necessarily see the point of them. Like, I don't see what a Minidoll is benefiting from looking like this over something like this, when really the only difference being the design. Maybe these types of figures are just more appealing to a certain audience, which is definitely a contributing thing into why I think these minifigures exist over something like a traditional minifigure. It definitely doesn't surprise me that someone like a little girl would pick this figure over something like this figure, as it's designed to look traditionally more like the dolls they're used to seeing on other shop shelves. But then I also think that that kind of defeats the objective of this minifigure, as this minifigure was fundamentally designed to not have necessarily people's defining features such as waistline, height, or eye color defined by the actual figure itself, something I really think that the traditional Lego figure does something much better than something like this mini doll. You can really make a minifigure look like any actor or any likeness without changing the shape of the figure at all. Yeah, for some female bodies they paint the waistlines in, but they don't really need to do that. And unless they're a unique torso, sometimes they won't even paint these in, having the same male and female torsos across multiple themes. So it confuses me why for Disney Princess, they decide to put in these more traditionally female-orientated minifigures. Obviously the clue's in the title, Disney Princess, but at the same time a lot of male people have seen these films, and I don't necessarily think it's fair that LEGO have to deem a certain minifigure to a certain gender. And I know based on market research that that's probably what LEGO is doing, but it seems odd to me that LEGO can make these sets for younger children and include things like mini dolls, but however when they move into all ages, looking at something like the Disney Castle, they decide to choose minifigures over something like mini dolls just because it's deemed a collector set. But then it confuses me when they decide, hey, we're going to put mini dolls in our new Frozen D2C castle, even though we've seen minifig designs of these same figures, even in the same costumes. And I know I see you typing in the comments that they haven't done a Kristoff figure. They could make one for this set, it's one minifigure, come on. That or include both minifigs and mini dolls so everybody can appreciate this set as well. But unfortunately LEGO have walked themselves into a trap on this one because they don't actually know where this one stands. Speaking of stands, if you wanted to display your minifigs or mini dolls, you'd have to buy one of these. Now these minifig stands are designed to hold 16 minifigures, and if you ask me, I'm wanting to put a lot more than 16 minifigures on display, as I'm an avid collector of minifigures, funnily enough. Thankfully this company called Wicked Brick have swooped in to save the day. I've talked a lot about these guys before. These minifigure wall displays have come in clutch and they look amazing with their high quality laser cut acrylic cases, and guess what? It holds a lot more than 16. In fact, you can get ones that pretty much hold any type of minifigure and in fact any type of set. If you're after a display option for a LEGO set, Wicked Brick is definitely the company I recommend to use. I've bought a lot of their stuff to protect my LEGO sets before, so I know they're good quality, and I'm super excited to be working with them on this one. Hell, they're now making things for Hot Toys and specific IKEA furniture to help you display more than just LEGO and adapt to any collector's home. A full video and review will be out about these specific cases. If you want to be here when that video drops, make sure you're pressing that subscribe button. Thank you to Wicked Brick for providing these to me and sponsoring the channel on this one. Guys, do me a favor, after this video, check them out. Trust me, it'll be worth it. Use my affiliate link, give the channel a little bit of extra support. Anyway, back to the mini doll Frozen Castle. On one side of the coin, it's a more expensive set, only being £100 cheaper than something like the Disney Castle. Makes me think that LEGO are targeting this more towards the collector, you know, similar to that Disney Castle that I just mentioned, which would include things like minifigs, as the Disney Castle is not targeted towards children, hence it using minifigures. But then there's the other side of the coin where they include mini dolls with this set, as if it was targeted towards the same younger audience that the mini doll sets are actually targeted towards. Personally, this situation just makes me think that LEGO don't even know themselves what mini dolls mean to LEGO. And another thing I find really frustrating is they've made some of these mini dolls into minifigures in things like the CMF. And comparing pictures like these, you can tell that these figures do the same job. They are both made to look like the character you see in the cartoon. However, the only difference I personally see between these two is that one looks much thinner than the other. And I don't know if that's saying something about the way that we live and the way that toys have been made for the last 60 odd years, even with things like Barbie and everything now going to a more traditional body shape. It makes me think of the social issues that mini dolls may present to our younger generation. something of which doesn't really apply with something like a normal generic minifigure. And I don't think it has to do anything with the likeness, as, like I've said multiple times, they have made the same character in mini doll form and minifig form. I don't really know what it is about big companies thinking like this, and all I really hear in the community about mini dolls is that they like them because it gets a younger female audience into things like Lego, but then somebody always has to add on to the end that they would appreciate minifig versions of the mini dolls included in these sets, which got me thinking to the whole point of why mini dolls existed in the first place. If they're doing the same job, why is there a need for it in the first place? Well, that's the thing. They're not doing the same job. LEGO Friends was a massive success, but I think one of the contributing factors to that success was also the TV show that was based on the LEGO Friends line, and to not make another show that looks like LEGO Ninjago, I think they opted for a wiser solution to make the characters look a lot more human rather than LEGO made. Now, if I'm honest, I've not seen an episode of the show, so I don't know if they have LEGO references, but it makes sense that these LEGO minifigures would look more like the TV characters, aka making them look a lot more human than the actual LEGO minifigures. So children can reenact the episode scene on screen, similar to how we do with LEGO Star Wars, Harry Potter, and Marvel. But even though I think shows like Ninjago can get away with looking like LEGO, I don't think a theme like LEGO Friends can get away with that same visual style. But maybe to help with the transition from mini dolls into other LEGO sets, to keep girls interested in the other themes, they would introduce Disney princesses and give them the same mini doll shape that they used to in their LEGO Friends sets, as these Disney princess films are usually targeted towards the younger female audience. And you can tell LEGO knows this because some of their other themes, like Toy Story and the new Mickey and Minnie series, actually use minifigures over things like mini dolls, meaning things like these LEGO Disney Princess mini dolls are a transition period to try and get more girls to grow up with things like more LEGO sets sitting on their shelves, so they're more inclined to buy other things later on down the line, which is a smart decision, but it unfortunately means that we're not going to get these mini dolls as minifigs in other sets like this, unless it's in the form of another CMF series, which is a shame because you can see from this poll on my Discord that a lot of people, primarily male people over the age of 18, would prefer minifigures over things like mini dolls. But it doesn't matter because that's not what they're designed for. I bet you would get drastically different results if you presented this to a, say, younger, female-orientated group. But is maybe the reason that they would pick that in the first place because of the social issues that we find ourselves in today. Yes, companies are getting better at this, but we still have countless examples of things like body shaming, photoshopped ads, and manipulative media. Now, if you ask me, LEGO doesn't really do any of this sort of stuff, but is that kind of social issues the fact that we see these mini dolls on shelves today? I don't know, maybe I'm not the best to talk about it, but I'd be greatly interested to see some other people's opinions on things like these Disney princess sets. And funnily enough, we've got two here. This is Emmasaurus. If you haven't heard of her, she runs a really cool YouTube channel which I definitely think you should check out after this. The link will be on the end card. But she made a video a while back on why she didn't like mini dolls, and then proceeded to delete that video after she actually bought one of the sets to actually have an experience with. So I thought, who better to get onto the channel than her to explain a little bit in detail on what made that decision. So Emma, tell me your general opinions on mini dolls. Where do you stand with them now?
So as for my overall opinion on mini dolls, I would say that I'm mostly pretty neutral towards them. Like, I see mini dolls the same way that I see just kind of generalized normal looking minifigures, you know, like from non-IP sets. I don't avoid sets with mini dolls in them, but I also don't go out of my way to collect them either. I see them just completely different from minifigures, where mini dolls, I see them as like a play toy, like something for role play, something that's more meant to play with. It's not very collectible, whereas minifigures they're collectible, like they're CMF series, right? Like collectible minifigures. So I just see them completely different, and it's just really hard to compare. And I think that's a big thing in the community, is people say this is better than this, like minifigures are better than mini dolls, whereas they're just two completely different things.
And that's really interesting to me, because I genuinely don't think of them as two different things. I think of one trying to be the other. But how do you think LEGO would have conceptualized this in something like a board meeting?
So mini dolls are a very new thing, especially when compared to minifigures, for example. And I think LEGO started making them to really just start appealing to a different demographic, right? Because LEGO, at least traditionally, like from what I've seen, is more marketed towards boys. Especially when I was younger, there were no sets that were marketed towards me. Like, nothing was really girly. And so I feel like they're really trying to just start marketing towards girls and women, and I see that definitely working. Like, even the box shape is a little bit different, which is kind of weird. It has that like curve thing on the front. And so I don't know, again, like what kind of research they did or anything and what that looks like, but I know that that's kind of what they were trying to do, is just finally get some more girls to be interested in LEGO.
Of course, I definitely don't think I'm the target demographic for these types of sets. I also think it's great that LEGO are delving into the younger female market to try and get more women into LEGO, as I truly do believe LEGO is for everyone. But then that makes me think of people like TEK Productions here, who are really into the Disney aspect of things and collects things like these Disney princess sets. TEK, what do you think of Minidolls?
Hey guys, it's TEK, and Tommy's asked me to talk about my opinion on the inclusion of Minidolls in LEGO Disney sets. Initially, I could very much appreciate that Minidolls weren't marketed towards me. When they first come out in the early 10s, I was in my mid-teens. I was definitely not the target market for Minidolls, and that was okay, and I could leave them and it was fine. I actually started to take note of Minidolls back last year when I started getting back into the hobby. I'm a huge Disney fan, and looking at some of the Disney sets that were on offer with Minidolls, there was some pretty cool stuff, and this year I think has definitely stepped up the mark when you look at the likes of the Frozen Castle and the Cinderella's Carriage, to name just two. Claire from The Plastic Architect and Ruth from Adorabuild are probably two of the biggest influences on me into getting into Minidolls with either Friends or the Disney Princesses line. I've always been a huge Disney fan. My family's been brought up on Disney films, so they've always been a huge part of my life, and to see those characters and some of the sets and the builds be included in LEGO form was really, really cool to me. However, I still wasn't convinced on Minidolls. I don't think that they were for me. I just thought the eyes look a bit weird on them. They're very cartoony, but again, they're not marketed towards me, so they're not going to appeal to me.
And because of this, do you feel like it's difficult to sometimes blend things like normal minifigures in with things like the Minidoll sets?
So I am very much someone that loves displaying things. I have a ton of minifigures on display. I have obviously like sets behind me on display, but for my Minidolls, I don't really care to display them. I just see them very different. Like I see Minidolls as something that you play with, like it's very much like for role play. That's really the functionality behind it, is just to kind of play with them. Whereas minifigures, I feel like they're a lot more collectible, right? Like CMF, collectible minifigures. It just feels more like a collector's item, something for display. And so I don't really care to display my Minidolls. I usually keep the Minidolls in the set that they came in, and I don't really care about displaying them. Whereas like my Disney CMFs, like those are in a display case, like they're very much on display, like I take really good care of them, because I just feel like they're completely different things. So the thing that converted me from being just like very anti-Minidoll to now being a lot more okay with them was just buying my first Disney princess set. I bought the Cinderella's Carriage, and I bought it for the set itself. Like I love Disney, I'm a huge Disney fan. And so having the Cinderella's Carriage was just really cool. I could put it out front of my Disney castle. You know, there was this whole thing that I wanted to do with it, but it came with Minidolls. And at first that kind of bothered me, and I was like, oh gosh, I'm paying all this money for this set and it comes with Minidolls. Like I would much rather have minifigures. But it gave me a good opportunity to just get to know them, build them, and just see them myself, because I used to be very anti-Minidoll. I even made a video about it, which is kind of embarrassing. Like I had never had a Minidoll set before, and I just made this like really dramatic video like I want to like Minidolls, but I just don't. And I realized, you know, after I got my Cinderella's Carriage, that I was like, wow, you know, I was being really judgmental for no reason. Like these are really great sets. Minidolls are fine. Like if you don't care about Minidolls, that's okay. You know, you can just set them aside. I just find it absolutely crazy that people will just avoid the Friends and Disney Princess sets because of the Minidolls. There's some really cool builds there that you're gonna miss out on.
I think when you take a look at the inclusion of Minidolls in LEGO Disney sets, it's important to remember that a lot of the people that have strong opinions against Minidolls aren't the ones that they're marketed towards.
It's strange because I've seen a lot of members of the community complain about Minidolls as if there's something that is targeted towards them, when obviously it's not. But obviously that does then lead to the question of would they necessarily sell more if they included things like minifigures over things like Minidolls, or a case of including both, even if it was for a marked up price.
The Minidolls did a huge thing for LEGO, and that was breaking into the young female market of toys. LEGO was always typically a boys' toy. With the Minidolls, they've really pushed through and opened up LEGO and gotten into homes of young girls and made a really big impact, and it's clear to see that they are not going anywhere. Friends is a huge seller for LEGO, and it has been pretty much since it started. And we've had themes like elves that is really coveted amongst a lot of LEGO fans. There's some great sets there. and now into the Disney Princess line as well.
Now, I loved the Elves theme. The Elves theme looked really, really cool, but I never bought any of it because it all came with Minidolls. And it's like Emma said earlier, you're going to miss out on these kind of things if you have this sort of mentality. But on the other hand, I also have all of these CMFs because they use traditional minifigures, and that's the way that I like minifigures to be. I'd be curious to know your opinions on, if you were put in charge of LEGO, would you include things like minifigures over things like Minidolls?
Okay, so that's a really hard one, right? Because I'm, of course, very biased and I'm kind of selfish. So, of course, I would rather have Disney Princess sets come with minifigures, right? Like, I would buy every single one of those sets. That would be awesome. Like, I would have so many Disney minifigures. Life would be wonderful. However, that's not the case. And I mean, I am kind of bummed that they do come with Minidolls. Like, I do prefer minifigures. I would love to have more Disney minifigs. But at the same time, like, on my channel, I do really push for, like, LEGO is for everybody, girls and boys. Everyone can enjoy LEGO, and I do appreciate that LEGO is marketing more towards girls. Like, I do love that a lot. And so I'm just kind of torn about that. Like, selfishly, like, for me personally, I would love, like, absolutely love to see more Disney minifigures and sets. But, you know, at the same time, Minidolls and sets is doing a lot of good, so I'm not really sure.
I think it's fair to say that Minidolls have to take a lot of credit for the reason that we are seeing so many Disney sets at the moment. From my experience growing up in my early to mid-teens, Disney films and Disney media in general had quite a feminine stigma around it. It's quite corny at times, it's very family friendly, and a teenage guy, the whole toxic masculinity thing, like, it just doesn't sit well with a lot of boys that are growing up and growing out of that kind of mentality. And LEGO have kind of acknowledged this. Disney Juniors or Disney 4+ is where we tend to get LEGO Disney minifigures, and that is marketed towards a very, very young age, whether it be for boys or for girls. Almost all of the Disney sets that are aimed towards specifically boys are now in the what used to be juniors or now 4+ range. That's a very young audience of boys that are actually into LEGO Disney. I think the Disney princesses tend to be more marketable to girls for a lot longer than the Disney films are for guys. And that is why I believe that there has been a big push with Minidolls and Disney.
And I've noticed that because a lot of these new Disney Mickey sets are based on the TV show that I believe came out on Disney+. I'm not 100% sure the origin of that show, but a lot of that was marketed towards the kids side of things, but then also had a lot of adult jokes in there for the audience to get, and I've actually watched quite a lot of those Mickey short animation things. They're on Disney+, and a lot of these 4+ sets have been based off of that show, I believe, considering it uses the same artwork on the boxes. So I like the fact that LEGO are trying to slip us minifigures, even if it is branded for 4+.
I mean, when I see a set that's 4+, I don't just think like, oh darn, this is just for children, like adults can't enjoy this. I see it as something that's like, hey, you know, 4-year-olds are able to build this, but also like 80-year-olds are able to build this. Like, anyone can enjoy it. It's just something where it's like, you know, it's a little bit easier to build. If you're 4 years old, you can probably handle it. And I feel like it's very similar to the whole like 18+ line where people are like, oh, it's Winnie the Pooh, why is that 18+? Or like Sesame Street's 18+. And really it's like, one, it's probably a little bit harder to build. So it's like, hey, you know, just so you know, the difficulty might be a little bit more than you're used to. But then for like Iron Man art, you know, it's really just a marketing thing. It's saying like, hey, you know, like we're marketing it towards 18 and up, like adults are welcome here. But, you know, if you're also 10 years old, it doesn't mean that you can't, you know, put the studs where they're supposed to go.
Of course, and I think this whole video has been sort of leaning towards how LEGO do their marketing and trying to understand Minidolls and where they fit in that marketing strategy, and minus all of the social politics stuff, I understand that from a marketing perspective, it is better to go down these because it opens up more opportunity, and with business, it's all about opportunity. If you wanted your product to appeal to a certain demographic, give it the most opportunity to make it appeal to them.
With a slightly more mature head on me and looking in from an older perspective, it makes sense for Disney to market these Disney sets for girls, and it makes sense to use the Minidolls to do that because that has been such a successful marketing tool for LEGO in the girls toys industry. Don't get me wrong, I'm still a huge minifigure lover, and I think that probably has put down a lot to nostalgia. However, I really love getting my favorite Disney characters in LEGO form, and more recently I have grown to kind of appreciate the Minidolls. Again, they're not marketed towards me. I'm not loving them like I love minifigures. I'm not going to buy a set just because of a Minidoll. Scrap that, I have actually done that recently. Snow White only came in one set, Tiana only came in one set, and Merida from Brave only came in one Lego Disney set. So I've actually gone back and bought those sets because I want the most iconic characters in Lego form, and unfortunately they're not doing those in minifigures. While I would love to see more CMFs, I think that is the best way to get the most iconic characters into minifigures. The marketability for Lego sets and minifigure sets from the more feminine or more younger Disney films, I just don't think it would work well for Lego. I refuse to miss out on sets like the Ice Castle, like Rapunzel's Tower, and like Cinderella's Carriage, because they are great sets. I'm not just going to completely miss out on them because of the Minidolls, and because Minidolls are my preference. At the end of the day, I want to see Lego Disney sets on the shelves for a very, very long time, and I think they will. But I think for that to be successful, it will be done through Minidolls. It would be great to see more CMF series around the Disney characters, and we can get some of our favorite characters and the most iconic characters in minifigure form. And then it means that there's a chance where you can switch out some of your favorite characters, and you can take out the Minidolls and put the minifigures in. I just don't think it would work well and be a good market strategy for Lego to start throwing loads of minifigures into these sets.
So overall with Minidolls, I do think that Lego's doing things right because, you know, they do bring in a lot more girls to the community, to the hobby, and that's, you know, obviously something I really care about. Lego wasn't marketed towards me as a young girl, and now seeing these sets and seeing girls in the Lego store, like, that's the coolest thing ever. Like, you can definitely see that change through time. And so I really don't think that Lego should change anything. I do like what they're doing. Selfishly, I would love to see more Disney minifigs in Disney princess sets, but I know that's just me being selfish. Like, obviously, they know what they're doing. Their marketing team has it nailed down. Like, Lego's doing great at pretty much everything they're doing so far. So yeah, I mean, I really think that just sticking to the Friends and Disney Princess is the right way to go. Maybe there might be a new line in the future, like kind of similar to Elves, kind of like a dark Friends kind of thing. And, you know, I do see that Minidolls would be fitting in something like that as well.
So, I don't mind Minidolls. It's one of those strange things where it's moved my perspective of these things into more of a I'm glad we kind of have them, from a I wish they were minifigs kind of mentality. At least we have the sets, you know? I think Lego do kind of know what they're doing, and I really hope we do see another Disney CMF so we can get some of these minifigures in minifig form. And it kind of does invalidate my Disney Frozen Castle argument. If you're a collector buying this set for £200, you're gonna have the CMF, which includes Elsa and Anna that have those same outfits on. The only thing you'll have to do is make a Kristoff figure, which you never know, we might see in a poly bag or a 4+ set, or another CMF. Alas, if that's not to happen, at least we have the 4+ sets to collect the minifigures, and for all you mini doll lovers, you're still gonna get some awesome sets that Lego are producing, even if they do include these. So do I like mini dolls? Have I been converted? Sadly, no. I'm not going to go out and buy these Disney princess sets now that I've made this video, but maybe I'll start giving them a bit more credit for at least being really damn cool sets, especially that Cinderella Carriage. A lot of what I've heard today is a lot of people shouldn't be blinded by one aspect of a set. Just because the set includes mini dolls and I don't particularly like that, shouldn't make me neglect the entire set for it. Cool, I'm sounding like another really controversial video on my channel. But at the end of the day, who cares what minifigures it includes, so long as we're getting this set in the first place. I guess I haven't forgotten the social issues that also do involve themselves into the whole minifig doll argument, but maybe that's a video for another day. For now, I'm happy calling this one.
Thanks again, Tommy, for having me on. I really do appreciate it, and it was a lot of fun kind of talking about mini dolls today. So yeah, once again, I'm Emily from the Emmasaurus YouTube channel. We do a bunch of Lego vlogs, talk about pretty much all things Lego. I have a Lego City, a Lego Disney World, so yeah, check out my channel.
Thanks for having me, Tommy, and listening to my opinions, and I'm sure this is going to create quite the discussion in the comments down below.
Guys, do please check out TEK Productions and Emmasaurus. Their cards will be at the end of this video, so all you have to do is press one click and you're there. A massive special shout out to the community and all the members that make these videos possible. That's all I have time for today, guys. I'll speak to you guys in the next one. Goodbye.